the biggest argument you've ever had with him? Was there ever a time when you guys stopped talking?
You've obviously worked very closely with him. Is he the savior of WWE that everyone makes him out to be?
In 2021, a pivotal meeting in Stanford set the stage for a corporate chess game that would change everything.
The only way we can do that is have the best management team in WWE history.
That same year, Vince met covertly with Endeavor.
And of course, that new management team was Nick Khan and Stephanie, the head of
A couple years ago, we drove to Stanford, the old WWE offices. Nick Khan had just started, and Ari mostly did the talking.
I'm just a guy supplying content and charging the most I can. That's my job, and I do it well.
And we basically told Vince why we thought we should come together.
How long was the meeting?
The meeting was about an hour.
The empire of WWE was built on spectacle, but its future was forged in secret.
How we use our dynamic ticket pricing company, which is called QQ, that we acquired, to get a higher number on the ticket price, the yield.
Meanwhile, Triple H fought to hold his ground.
And Hunter was just like, I have no clue what's happening. We'll figure it out together, because no one really knew what was happening.
Really, a lot of the big stories of 2021 center around NXT.
Navigating a web of alliances and rivalries backstage.
Could you imagine what was said behind closed doors and the anger that was behind those closed doors when Triple H was told he was being removed from power and that NXT was no longer his?
Vince McMahon had to say, well, you didn't beat AEW. You didn't attract big TV rights money. You were doing this wrestling division with all your indie guys. I was tolerating it.
WWE put NXT on USA Network at 2 hours to actively compete with AEW and Tony Khan. Who made that decision?
For that long, because I thought maybe you could beat AEW. maybe you could draw some damn money. But you didn't do either of those.
NXT went head to head with AEW. It couldn't beat him. We're gonna punish it. Is that a real thing? Nonsense.
Kind of weird that I needed music to come out here. And it's also a big day.
For me and for her, this is it though. You know, I looked at the sucker the other day. It's more years than any WWE contract I signed, and I know why, because
it's not developmental anymore. This is now.
This is all elite wrestling. You are all elite wrestling.
Equivalent to Raw, to SmackDown. There are now 3 brands: Raw, SmackDown, NXT.
You cannot counter-program the law. They show you what you're feeling.
Tonight, live on the USA Network for the first time, we are going to show the world.
here is his youngest son who's going to go try and cut Vince's head off.
I will put this roster up against any roster in the world. I will put the product up against any product in the world.
Let me ask you where we go next.
Please consider this the invite to come here when you want to. Please consider this the invite to be a part of this.
Will you follow us?
Because as a lot of you have also been in this since the beginning and sort of covering this and reporting it, I really appreciate it.
We will never, ever, ever let you down.
And I'm counting on you to continue doing that. Look forward to the future, because the future is now. Thank you.
We do, and people put so much pressure on all this competitive wars. It never was that. Look, first of all, they beat our developmental system. Good for them, right? The Johnny Garganos and the Tommaso Ciampas, the Undisputed Eras, the Shayna Baszlers and the Rhea Ripleys that are here in NXT now, those are the stars of today, and they're the stars that will be headlining WrestleManias in the future.
Triple H has revealed that he was threatened to be fired by WWE.
While reeling from another XFL failure, Vince shifted his focus back to WWE, doubling down on his empire. He tasked his daughter with a $100 million sponsorship goal.
And when we took him through how we monetized those events, no dissimilar, by the way, to a wrestling match.
And boasted about his best ever management team: Nick Khan, Stephanie, Triple H, and Christine Sarin. But one question burned beneath the surface. Who was Nick Khan, this newcomer climbing WWE's ruthless hierarchy at breakneck speed? And what hidden loyalty did he bring to the table?
Could you take me back to the embryonic stages of when this all started? You're at CAA, decade, you're on top of the game, you are the agent, right, in this world of sports broadcasting. But when did it all start? When did the idea of you coming to WWE start?
Paul Levesque, he's the one who introduced me to WWE.
Within a year, that celebrated team would fracture, with one man rising above the rest. Nick Khan, a super agent turned power player. He was about to rewrite WWE's future, and not everyone would survive the fallout.
And it was 48 minutes of us talking. That was it. We leave there and Vince has zero interest.
Vince McMahon shut down Endeavor's bold pitch.
And that was it. It was over.
Or so it seemed.
These people just don't understand. They don't get it. They're never ever going to know the inner workings of our family. And that's what we are. We're solid. We're together. And as long as we're all together, we can handle anything.
People think that he's unaware of things that happened in his own company. He's well aware of all of it.
Within a year, Vince's prized management team lay in ruins, with Khan rising as the sole survivor. But whose shadow was guiding these moves, and how would it lead to a seismic shift? Nick Khan, a super agent with a silver tongue, slipped into WWE's inner circle. For years, he was the yin to Ari Emanuel's yang, a rival in sports and entertainment. His influence unmatched.
I had Vince McMahon and Nick Khan in a group text. That's quite a weapon now.
But was he Triple H's ally, or a Trojan horse with loyalty yet to be revealed? In 2022, Khan credited Triple H for his dream job at WWE.
Paul had called me, unsolicited call. I said, oh yeah, Triple H, I know who you are. I remember you as Terror Rising.
Yes,
his
WCW.
Former wrestling name from WCW, exactly.
A bond born from a failed Tim Tebow WrestleMania pitch that sparked a friendship.
I said, I don't know who you are. He's like, oh, you know WWE? I said, yeah, I know WWE. I grew up a fan. I was an usher at WrestleMania 9 at Caesar's Palace. I said, hey, what do you think of Tim Tebow against the Big Show at whatever that WrestleMania was after the Patriots run? Ultimately, it didn't happen. But Triple H and I remained in touch.
When WWE's TV rights hit a snag, Endeavor's dual role with UFC raised flags. Fox demanded a new player. Enter Nick Khan, who delivered a massive earnings boost.
And there was a heavy multiple on that. I think it went to 3.6 times or something to that effect for those rights. And as you know, success can oftentimes breed closeness.
Months later, at Triple H's ultra-exclusive 50th birthday party, Khan and his wife were among the selected few invited.
About Triple H's 50th birthday.
Wow.
Yeah?
Yeah. Which was really his closest friends and family members.
There might have been over 50, but not much.
Okay.
As far as how many people were there. And like Paul said, it's like only people I like, actually. Like,
it could have been a lot bigger.
And actually a lot of people, I think, got their feelings hurt.
Obviously, Vince was there. Linda McMahon was there. Other folks that they're close to.
Khan called it a family.
To myself, wow, this really feels comfortable. It felt like family to me.
Nick doesn't say anything for no reason.
Yeah.
Was this a calculated move to seize WWE's throne? The answer seemed clear in 2018 when Vince took a step back, hiring Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff to steer Raw and SmackDown, freeing himself to relaunch the XFL.
And over time, he was the one who said to me, hey, I think Vince may want to meet with you. I think you told me you're going to be in Dallas this weekend. Dallas was where Raw was. That's good that you're going to be there, because if I told Vince you were flying in for the meeting, he'd say, don't do it. I may have to cancel. It's Raw. But I know you're going to be there. So I went. I sat in a hotel room. Paul called me. He said, Vince is ready to meet. I went to Vince's office, met with him. I pitched what I had to say, and we shook hands on a deal.
But was Triple H's introduction of Nick Khan a strategic move to secure his future? For 8 years, Triple H built a legacy that wrestling fans and media adored. Through NXT, he gave hardcore fans exactly what they craved.
NXT is the greatest thing that the man has done.
His vision was nothing short of world domination.
Triple H gets up there on the stage and does the Business Partner Summit. Business Partner Summit is this big presentation that they used to do every year at WrestleMania weekend, where they would invite all their business partners to WrestleMania weekend and, you know, giving their pitch about how great their vision is and how great WWE is. And Triple H gave his speech on something called
global localization.
What is global localization, Priscilla?
So our goal is global localization. Our goal is to replicate this model of training and a localized version of NXT, which is the developmental system I was mentioning before that evolved into our third global touring brand. And the UK is really our first market. And once that proves to be successful, we're going to put that model everywhere.
Yeah. A plan for local globalization, infiltrating countries with standalone NXT brands that would serve as a feeder system to WWE.
You're not going to find a Triple H supporter out there that is bigger than I am.
All molded in his image.
With what the man did in NXT.
Fans were ready for his vision.
And you're not going to convince me otherwise that NXT, the way we saw it, isn't the best way for WWE's future.
Believing he held the future of wrestling in his hands.
You saw somebody that legitimately had the best interest of the company at heart. You saw somebody that knew changes need to be made.
But while Vince McMahon often clashed with the media, Triple H embraced them, hosting calls before NXT TakeOver events.
And next, I move to Dave Meltzer with Wrestling Observer.
Hey, Paul, how you doing? I'm good. How about yourself?
Building a fan base that saw him as the progressive leader WWE needed. Was this a calculated move to position himself as the WWE's heir apparent? A goal that seemed within reach. But as NXT lost ground to AEW, Triple H's influence waned.
There's two big differences between WWE and what AEW is.
You see, Triple H was tasked with stopping AEW's rise and securing a blockbuster TV deal for NXT.
And Tony Khan, who owns and is a founder of AEW, he's the one who sought out us and made us the EVPs so that it could be a wrestling company run by actual wrestlers.
If Triple H was in charge, he'd be doing a lot better with his team in charge than the current team right now that is in place.
But the Wednesday Night War crushed NXT, forcing it to retreat to Tuesday nights.
He kicks his way through the X. It was very symbolic. I even wrote here, symbolism, the demise, the final nail in the coffin of the old black and gold.
It's fascinating to think about what the relationship is like right now between Paul Levesque and Vince McMahon.
But what happens when your biggest supporter turns out to be your biggest obstacle?
No longer are we in the black and gold era, but now we're into, NXT 2.0.
Well, look, I think the biggest thing was that I didn't know I was going to be the one having to do everything.
Did Triple H's empire face a new threat from within?
I honestly think he was blackballed.
Now, Dave Meltzer was kind enough to confirm my reports from Saturday live on these channels about the decision-making in NXT being masterminded not by Triple H and Shawn Michaels, but instead being helmed by Bruce Pritchard, John Laurinaitis, and Vince McMahon, and they have to live with it.
And so I think that was probably the biggest adjustment was, okay, this is, I think we had probably 3 weeks and we didn't have a whole lot of information. And by the time we got the information, it was coming down to the last week and we went ahead and, applied everything that we could.
WWE television right now, run by Bruce, run by Vince, run by John Laurinaitis and Nick Khan. There's no long-term vision in what they want the product to look like.
I've had a lot of people saying bad stuff about me for a long time, but for this brand to have to go through that was new.
The WWE's plan is to procure a massive amount of new developmental talent on very low-cost contracts similar to those currently held by members of the NXT UK roster. For those who don't know, the NXT UK roster currently earn between £20,000 and £25,000 per year. So, less than your average civil service job. The issues that Vince is having with Triple H continue, and it's only getting worse. Is that talent don't want to leave NXT, and when they do,
is everybody focuses, this is the easy wrestling story to understand, is that, oh my god, they lost the Wednesday Night War, AEW won the Wednesday Night War. When the NXT to USA announcement is made, all these ridiculous estimates that the deal is worth $50 million a year, $100 million a year, and then they announce a renewal, publishes this article on March 30th, 2021. On March 30th, 2021, stock price is $55. It basically doesn't move. If anything, the next day it goes down a little bit. It's not as if this announcement of this valuable deal, which if it was worth $50 million, it would be on par with its second biggest TV deal. That is the one in India. No movement in the stock. And then in April, the very next conference call, Stephen Cahall from Wells Fargo asks Christina Salen if the NXT deal means anything. Basically, does this affect your profitability? Christina Salen says, no, there's nothing to update in regard to our guidance because of the NXT deal. In other words, the NXT deal either was not a change from what it was in the first place, and a downgrade didn't even matter, or an upgrade of that much didn't even matter.
One final thing I want to mention, and that's the fact that WWE executives have found to be the most infuriating.
I get the question a lot, when are you going to the main roster? And I absolutely hate that question. I absolutely hate it so much. I get tweeted a lot. People say, I can't wait to see you on the main roster. Like, you are seeing me on the main roster. NXT is the main roster.
When Tommaso Ciampa spoke up and said he didn't want to leave NXT, Vince McMahon heard him. People were not happy that the grass was apparently not greener on the main roster.
When Triple H suffered a cardiac event in 2021, Vince didn't hesitate.
He put in a fabulous team down here, and that's why it's able to continue on without him, because he put phenomenal people in place. And
he fired Triple H's entire team, including William Regal and Road Dogg, men Triple H had publicly promised jobs for life just months earlier.
Look, William Regal, he'll always be a part of it, no matter where we go on Tuesday.
That team was gone by January 2022, leaving him to navigate a diminished role. betting on an ally he might not have fully understood. There was a much deeper bond lurking in his past, one that could shake WWE to its core. Was Khan truly Triple H's ally? Or did he have another loyalty? One that could shift WWE's power dynamics. And then there was Shane McMahon, creeping back into power. By January 2022, he was running the Royal Rumble, but his ego sparked chaos. Did he overplay his hand?
There's a new story or a new bit of information that comes out about this whole Shane McMahon Royal Rumble thing, and you would read all of this and you would think this guy was the devil reincarnated, and everything bad about that Royal Rumble match was his fault. He effectively fired his own son a week after Vince's mother died, Shane's grandmother. That's cold.
Or was someone perhaps pulling strings to push him out?
But this time, for whatever reason, even though we've never really heard stories like this about Shane before, he was said to be a nightmare. And now it just feels like, well, it's WrestleMania time, so let's have the obligatory Shane McMahon match. That's how it ended up being with Triple H. The only Shane McMahon match worth having was against Triple H. I laid it all out after Shane came back to the company. You talk about a great story. There was a story there for the taking with those two. And now they'll never do it because Triple H is done. Look at how they have hidden him away.
You know, my dad took it from his dad took it from his father, and so my sister and I continue in that tradition.
I love Vince. Vince is not the problem, guys. I love Vince. Just trust me on that. He's not the problem.
When did you feel like you and Paul were kind of being groomed as to take a bigger load and potentially run this whole thing?
Vince McMahon's iron grip on WWE began to slip in early 2022. The turning point came in a courtroom. To defend themselves, WWE had to admit a painful truth.
In January, this is MLW suing WWE because they allege that WWE interfered with a Tubi deal. Tubi, which is owned by Fox, allegedly Stephanie McMahon did something to pressure Tubi to terminate the deal. This past week, WWE responded, as expected, with a motion to dismiss the case.
But WWE, for the first time this week, acknowledged that AEW has, in fact, been a success.
MLW has given up competing in the ring and has chosen instead to compete in the courtroom.
WWE, or at least in this document, whoa, they're doing well. Why can't you do well, MLW?
The complaint alleges that WWE's popularity has declined over the last 5 years. It goes on to say that during the same period, AEW entered the proposed market and successfully sold broadcast rights to Warner Media. Subsequently, AEW managed to capture an average 2020 rating of 0.344 compared to WWE Raw's 0.5075 in the key 18 to 49 demographic. This successful entry and expansion refutes the existence of substantial barriers to entry. They cited the demo.
Hey, look, there's ample competition in this wrestling world. There's AEW, which has had success. WWE mentions that in the demo, 1849, Dynamite and Raw are pretty close.
You know, when you have these ratings wars every Thursday afternoon that erupt on social media, I don't even talk about it anymore because it's just so toxic, but I love that they brought up the demo in this filing. And the exhibit, this is even better.
Have you seen what is an exhibit to this complaint, or have you heard what is an exhibit to this complaint?
That WWE included in their motion to the court was the October 18, 2021 issue of
Wrestling Observer Newsletter is an exhibit to this complaint.
The Wrestling Observer Newsletter.
Which basically means it's an attachment at the era, not this complaint. The exhibit to this motion to dismiss.
WWE is using the Observer as evidence in court.
What happened in that same week,
covering the time that WWE lost,
which was the head-to-head battle between Rampage and SmackDown.
So basically, they're citing how successful AEW has been, including the creation of Rampage.
AEW just introduced a second program.
A recent purchase of Ring of Honor.
It's also mentioned to say, hey, look, it's not like other companies are even struggling to have output.
As examples of why WWE is not a monopoly and why MLW's claims have no merit.
AEW hadn't only survived, but thrived, siphoning off WWE's audience, backed by data from the Wrestling Observer, a source Vince and Triple H had long mocked. Triple H's inability to counter AEW's rise with NXT and Stephanie's struggles to secure sponsorships left Vince McMahon questioning their loyalty. Imagine the weight of the disappointment, the sting of seeing your legacy threatened by those you trusted most. But this was the prelude to a darker chapter. As tensions mounted, a betrayal was brewing. Someone close to Vince was about to do something that would expose his secret life, threatening to destroy everything he had built. Who would dare to commit such treachery? Was it a family member disillusioned by years of pressure, or a rival executive with eyes on the throne? The year kicked off with Triple H, once the creative mastermind behind WWE's NXT, slowly returning to work in January. But this wasn't the triumphant comeback fans expected. Instead of leading, he was sidelined, tasked with recruiting for WWE's newest developmental project, the NIL, or Next in Line program. NXT, his brainchild, was shifting under Shawn Michaels and Matt Bloom, following strict new rules set by Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard.
Okay, Daddy, I know.
WWE kept Triple H's health under wraps until one morning in March when he sat down with Stephen A. Smith on ESPN.
You're supposed to have had a health issue, but you're sitting in front of me looking better than me.
In a raw, unguarded moment, he opened up about his cardiac event, revealing the toll it had taken.
Is this it? You know, do you wake up for this?
It wasn't just a wrestling story, it was a human one.
I think it's just put things in perspective.
A glimpse into the vulnerability of the game.
What are you going to be doing in the wrestling world as an executive?
And unfortunately, there's more vulnerability to come.
But right now I'm back, I'm at the office. I am fully focused on recruiting and development of our talent in the future. That's the biggest focus for me, and as we move forward from there, it's making sure that WWE is a success for generations to come.
Speaking of Vince, he wasn't just pulling strings backstage, he was back on WWE TV, playing a recurring role as Austin Theory's mentor. Vince saw big things in the young star and took a hands-on approach to this development. That decision led to his first in-depth interview in a decade, sitting across from Pat McAfee in early 2022. Watching it now, nearly 3 years later, his words hit differently.
See, there's a show, Secession. People are like, oh, this is probably what's happening behind the scenes. Right. When do you think that started, and were you pissed that that conversation even happened, and is that something you even think about?
If you want this so bad, stick the dagger right here, because that's what you're gonna have to do to make that decision.
No, I don't think about it a lot. Hopefully, if you built something, hopefully you want it to continue on, and prosper and grow, whether that's with a family member or without a family member.
On Succession, Vince insisted it all came down to his ability to contribute. Zero plans of retiring. He boasted he was harder on his kids than any employee.
You know, my dad told me that I had failed him.
Nick Khan would offer more insight in an interview with Colin Cowherd.
I would imagine he's been offered multiple times to sell this. He doesn't need the money. It is a often turbulent 24/7, 365 lifestyle.
I think if there's been tumult in someone's childhood, if you can get through it with no safety net. So I think he has no interest in selling, number one, because he's built it. Number two, because he's still the best person to run it. And number three, what's he going to do?
And if you don't stick the dagger right here, then I'll know you're not man enough to do it. And I have to take that into consideration as well.
Stephanie, the knife.
You don't rule out Shane or Stephanie, but it was my understanding that Hunter was supposed to be the individual. I don't know, that's the upper level stuff that I couldn't even imagine.
Setting the stage for the chaos to come.
Or you can buy me out the way I bought out my father. And if I don't get out of your way, be prepared to get rid of me the way I would have had to get rid of my father when he wasn't doing things my way at all.
And to think that I had failed him was something I took so emotionally. And, and it was a very, very hard, painful lesson, especially because he's my father, not just my boss.
On March 30th, 2022, the WWE board received an anonymous email that was about to send shockwaves through the wrestling world. This wasn't just any message. It was a bombshell, one that would rattle key board members like Triple H, Stephanie, and Nick Khan. But here's the question that still haunts insiders. Did this email truly catch them off guard?
Everyone has to understand their place. And when a family member thinks, wait a minute, I've got this, they don't quite have the vision that someone who's grown and created a business. They have a different vision. And it may have worked, but you know what? We're going to go with my vision.
If it's true that either Stephanie and or Triple H knew that there were issues that could tank the company, but did what they thought best to protect the company, even if that include exposing something.
Vince McMahon is certainly not bigger than what we do.
With WrestleMania just a week away, the spotlight shifted to what WWE billed as the most stupendous event in history. Triple H, once the mastermind of WWE's creative future, stepped into the ring one last time, leaving his boots behind and retiring for good. It was a bittersweet farewell, tinged with irony, Since he started dating Vince McMahon's daughter back in 1999, the game hadn't seen his influence shrink. No one knew what lay ahead for him, and the uncertainty cast a long shadow.
By the way, did you see The Rock's tweet about Triple H and his retirement?
I did not see that.
No, because there wasn't one. Anyway.
Yet despite the backstage chaos, WrestleMania 38 soared. After months of sluggish ticket sales, WWE pulled off a miracle. They brought Stone Cold Steve Austin out of retirement, unleashing him in his home state of Texas to a crowd that nearly tore the roof off. Then came the real shocker. Cody Rhodes returned.
They did not change the music. They didn't change the guy's robe. They kept his elevator entrance, dude. I couldn't believe it.
After years of losing ground to AEW in ratings and fan perception, WWE scored a massive win by bringing back the founding father of the rival promotion.
I told Vince McMahon, Bruce Pritchard, and Nick Khan, this very small circle of individuals, I told them what I truly believe, and it's that I'm the best wrestler in the world.
Cody's comeback wasn't just a moment. It was a symbol of hope, a sign that WWE might finally be reclaiming its creative edge.
Vince McMahon gave him a presentation like he was a main eventer.
Do you see yourself ever leaving the WWE?
Try to do when I'm making decisions. I try to make it real, like as if I've made that decision, and I feel regret and I feel lost, and those aren't the feelings that I want to have.
But as I already said, 2022 was a controversial year.
But the big question is, where is Stephanie McMahon-Levesque going?
And we've only scratched the surface.
That was the question many people had after maybe the most noteworthy tweet from a WWE individual this year.
A few months later, Stephanie dropped a bombshell of her own.
Maybe it will mean nothing. Maybe this is just temporary. She comes back.
Announcing completely out of nowhere that she was taking
A leave of absence here doesn't align with what I imagine of a McMahon family member in terms of the reputation of these are people who work tirelessly all the time.
But a McMahon stepping away?
How did you end up with the same work ethic? Is that DNA?
I know I don't like sitting around doing nothing. It aggravates me to not be accomplishing something.
To Vince, that might have reeked of weakness.
We know that Triple H is no longer overseeing NXT in Orlando. NXT has clearly been revamped. His vision of what NXT was is no longer the vision for NXT.
What's your official title again? Senior Vice President, Global Talent Strategy and Development.
Let's talk a little bit about this tryout, because I was here a year ago. Incredibly different as far as the talent that you're seeing and
the look, the size.
And there seemed to have been political forces that were, working to completely rehaul NXT. Is that related to this? I have no idea.
Fans, though, understood her need for a break and took her at her word.
Number one is the fact that Nick Khan, who I would imagine already has a pretty sizable plate of responsibilities, is now going to be, at least in the interim, taking on more. And this is, the advertising and sponsorship area of the company. That has really been Stephanie's area, and one that they have earmarked for big growth over the next several years.
Little did they know the full story was far more tangled than it seemed.
Is WWE even going to be handed down to another McMahon family member after Vince? This makes me less confident.
But weeks later, the tide turned. A WWE insider dropped a bombshell, leaking Stephanie McMahon's burial to Sports Business Journal.
Like, I could never bury my child, to the media. Well, I mean, you look at his relationship with Shane. Is it that surprising? I mean, I don't think I ever saw an article saying that Shane is incompetent at his job and it came from WWE directly, Yeah. Obviously, we heard what happened at Royal Rumble, but that was like the first time I saw something negative like that come about the McMahons.
A credible outlet that hadn't touched WWE much before. Was this the sign of a new shadowy connection? The article source straight from the insider revealed the truth. Stephanie hadn't just stepped away. She'd been forced out by Vince. Her crime? Failing to hit this ambitious $100 million sponsorship target, a goal inspired by UFC's playbook. Could this hint at a merger with Endeavor lurking on the horizon? In a flash, another McMahon was publicly sidelined by Vince, mirroring Shane's fate months earlier. The pieces even dug up a damning quote from Vince's Pat McAfee show interview.
You have to be objective and look at family members, whoever it is, just like you would other employees. And quite frankly, I probably have expected more out of my family members, which is probably not the right thing either. but we really
that's going to be a big deal right there, what you just said.
A brutal irony. 3 weeks later, the plot thickened.
Vince McMahon stepping back temporarily from his leadership roles within the company. This comes after the Wall Street Journal reported the board of directors is investigating alleged hush money payments he made to a former employee.
The Wall Street Journal unleashed its explosive report on Vince McMahon, and his response?
In typical brash McMahon fashion, he's not going quietly. The WWE reports he'll appear tonight live on SmackDown in character.
Boldly advertised his appearance on that night's SmackDown. Critics and fans alike wondered, wouldn't he fear the crowd turning on him? Before the show even began, fans were chanting his name. He strutted out, kicked off the night, and recited WWE's mission statement. Then, now, forever.
And the most important word is together.
It was a defiant FU to his detractors.
The special committee has appointed Vince's daughter, Stephanie McMahon, as the interim CEO and chairwoman of the WWE in the meantime.
But WWE reports McMahon will maintain control of the company's creative storylines while under investigation.
A loud reminder that his loyal legion of fans would keep him atop that pedestal, scandal or not.
What we get from the Wall Street Journal article is that an anonymous email was first received by the board of directors on March 30th. Sometime in April, they started their investigation. May 19th, Stephanie McMahon announces that she's taking a leave of absence beginning the following day. Then June 3rd, the Business Insider article comes out saying that Vince removed Stephanie because of performance issues. So, I mean, that leaves a lot of questions about, here's another big question that I would have is, did
George says any possibility Stephanie's move is related to this?
Did Stephanie know? Stephanie's still a member of the board of directors.
I do not want to speak for her at all, but it'd be hard for me to believe.
So
I
go further and
that she didn't know about this
and ask, how could she not have known?
It's very clear that somebody who is very close to this situation wanted this news out there.
No storyline could ever come close to what happens in real life. As the storylines are in WWE, I do think real life can play out in a much bigger, more dramatic fashion.
If you have enough money, you can get away with anything, including murder.
You can almost hear the whispers at a UFC event where Vince, Stephanie, and Triple H put on a show of solidarity, but Nick Khan was there too, orchestrating a clandestine meeting with Endeavor, hinting toward a merger no one saw coming.
Now, fast forward, we go out to dinner at the Mark Hotel restaurant. We make the pitch again in a more casual social setting.
Something you or Ari said that Vince said,
Stephanie, Triple H, and Nick Khan would rally behind their king. Was this unity a facade, hiding a backstabbing scheme? Stephanie, back from her mysterious absence, was crowned co-CEO alongside Nick Khan. An anonymous email received by the board on March 30th had ignited an investigation into his misconduct. Into this void stepped Stephanie McMahon, his daughter. She and her husband, Triple H, both board members, knew the email's damning contents. But how did Stephanie ascend to power?
All right, I gotta take a breath. I need to step away for a little bit. Vince is like, great, yeah, you need to take some time. Doesn't know what it's gonna be, doesn't know what she's gonna do. We're like 3 weeks in, we're gonna go up to our lake house, and we're literally in the car driving up there. We get the phone call.
Was it a desperate call from WWE or her own calculated move? Triple H painted a vivid scene in an interview with Ariel Helwani.
That says, we need you to step in as chairwoman and CEO in the now. And she's like, can I call you back in a little bit and think about this for a minute? And like there was a time limit on that. Like, yeah, no, we need to know now.
Wow.
Total changing direction. None of us saw that coming, and but it is what it is. And
they said they needed Stephanie to come back as co-CEO immediately, he recounted. The story suggested a crisis, a sudden plea for Stephanie to fill the gaping hole Vince left behind. But was this the real story or a crafted illusion?
I took a leave of absence realizing that I needed a little bit of time with my family, given the grueling schedule and nature. I got about 3 weeks, which is more than a lot of other folks get.
During the second quarter 2022 earnings call.
And I was not forced into returning as the CEO and chairman in the interim position. I offered
to step in as chairman and co-CEO alongside Nick Khan. No mention of a lake house, no trace of panic, just a deliberate choice. Who was telling the truth? And what were they hiding? The contradiction gnawed at the WWE universe.
Somebody's
got the story wrong, whether it's here or Business Insider putting that story out soon after Stephanie McMahon's leave of absence, saying that according to one WWE insider, Vince is the one who pushed her out. Very conspicuous too that, okay, this happens on May 19th. The board is in the process of their investigation into Vince McMahon's NDA payments at that time. Stephanie and Triple H are both members of the board of directors. It's hard to believe they wouldn't be aware of the investigation before she announces her leave of absence.
Did the company summon Stephanie, or did she seize the moment? Both she and Triple H sat on the board when the email surfaced, fully aware of the investigation into Vince's scandal. Their conflicting tales might have been a strategic dance.
What I say a lot of times is totally different than what I think. And the public doesn't understand that sometimes.
Feigning shock to shape public perception.
As a businessman, you have to throw things out there. It's not really the way you feel.
Perhaps paving the way for a broader power shift.
It controls thought process by doing that.
Reports later hinted at tension. Their boardroom knowledge and polished narrative suggested preparation, not surprise. But if they were ready, what game were they playing?
You have to do the right thing for the business. So if this person is not working out, then they should be a part of the company.
The Wall Street Journal's expose dropped a bombshell. Weeks later, another report hit, forcing his exit.
Vince leaving WWE, what are your thoughts?
I'm not going to talk about Vince and WWE. I'm here to talk about AFPI.
I was just wondering what your thoughts were on him deciding to leave. Fans of wrestling are you can't believe it.
Well, you know what? He'll just be deciding on how he's going to spend his free time. I think that's a good thing. Thanks.
Just after 4 p.m. Eastern, I believe, which sounds about right because that's when the stock market closes, is the press release that WWE put out.
And Vince retired, shockingly, willingly.
Brandon Ross, the Lightshed analyst who covers WWE stock, tweeted at 4:16 that Vince is fully gone from WWE as an executive. This includes his role as head of creative in addition to his CEO role.
Wrestlers breathe easier and fans starved for change flocked, already lured by Cody Rhodes' meteoric rise as the American Nightmare with his Cody clock ticking on Raw.
Kevin Dunn and Bruce Pritchard are the point people running tonight's SmackDown taping in Boston. Brock Lesnar reportedly has left the building. He was previously scheduled to appear.
One question looms large. In a world where power is everything, who had the most to gain from Vince McMahon's fall?
There was a Paul Levesque is back press release this morning that now becomes ambiguous, announcing that Paul Levesque would be taking over, overseeing talent relations. That's the role that John Laurinaitis previously had.
How is the product going to be different underneath you as opposed to when Vince McMahon had the book?
Gotta watch the show.
Come on, that's not an answer.
WWE put out a press release announcing, among other things, that Paul Levesque will assume all responsibilities related to WWE's creative.
Stephanie ascended. Triple H seized creative control and talent relations,
in addition to his regular duties. On Friday morning prior to this, they had announced that Paul Levesque was now the executive vice president of talent relations.
Last Friday was the whole Lesnar walking out, and we were under the assumption that Pritchard was running the show. And then Monday, it came out, and it was the first Raw under Triple H.
As Triple H vowed to end Vince's dictatorial reign, fostering collaboration backstage.
They're a massive pair of shoes to fill. The intent is to take it beyond where it is now. The only way we're going to do that is with a team. That's with Steph, that's with Nick Khan, that's with myself, that's with Kevin Dunn.
But this was the prelude to a darker chapter. As tensions mounted, a betrayal was brewing.
This was quite the day. I think this is going to be one of the more significant days that we look back on. On Friday, certainly that was a big story dropping. And you correct me if you feel differently. I think that people still left with the idea that is the door closed on Vince McMahon ever returning?
But did Triple H and Stephanie earn this power grab? Did they sabotage Vince to seize it?
Whereas today, it felt like that door was shut. And tonight's Raw, we are in a WWE environment where Vince McMahon does not exist any longer.
At least for now.
For now, but I really cannot see him ever back in a power position.
Perhaps.
Just as fans wrestled with this mystery, Triple H stepped into the spotlight in a brewing storm. He was pressed about NXT's struggles against AEW's past ratings wins. With a dismissive shrug, he dropped a bombshell.
We do, people put so much pressure on all this competitive wars. It never was that. Look, first of all, they beat our developmental system. Good for them, right?
They beat our developmental. The word struck like betrayal. a dagger to the heart of every fan who roared for NXT's glory.
Began to take on this kind of cult following. People started really wanting to get involved in it, and we knew we had something special. Then the concept quickly became, we had the opportunity to create a third global brand, which is where really I think we are now.
For 5 years, Triple H had sold NXT as more than a proving ground.
This USA deal puts it at a different platform level so that talent can, like you said, go to Raw, to SmackDown, to NXT, to the UK, to wherever we are, and seamlessly go around so that they can have a very long, meaningful career, but without just being in one place.
He fueled fans' pride, their belief in its legacy. Now, with one careless phrase, he shrank it back to developmental.
But the vast majority of the talent that you saw on that NXT show for years, they were not developmental talent. They were established talents who already came in with experience, who were being groomed for call-ups eventually to the main roster. A lot of the people that you see right now on the main roster came out of NXT, but they were not developed in NXT. Some of them were. Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley, there are success stories that you can point to, but a lot of them were not.
Erasing years of passion as if it were a footnote. The contradiction wasn't a misstep, it was gaslighting. A rewrite of history that left fans reeling.
Triple H went out there and he said, this is no longer developmental. That is what he said. Those were his words. And when NXT won the Battle of the Brands at Survivor Series 3 years ago, Raw and SmackDown didn't get beat by developmental. So I heard what he said there and I just thought to myself, man, what a burial of that NXT talent roster at the time, the way he just dismissed it like that. I wonder what those guys think and those girls think, the ones who believed in all the that he said and all the rah-rah speeches and rallying the troops and all that, and we're not developmental, we are NXT, you know.
Was this a fleeting lapse or a sign of deeper deceit? The reaction was instant and fierce. NXT's faithful felt mocked, their loyalty trampled by Triple H's retcon. Yet with Vince sidelined from creative, hope flickered. Fans yearned to trust Triple H as WWE's new visionary. They forgave this thing, clinging to dreams of a golden era, but the shadow grew. If he could so easily dismiss NXT's past, what else might he twist? Was this just one lie, or merely a preview of more to come? These twin blows, the clashing tales of Stephanie's rise and Triple H's NXT betrayal, cast a chilling doubt. Could WWE's new rulers be trusted? Both had known of Vince's downfall, yet their words felt sculpted, elusive.
I'm skeptical of Triple H's description of Vince's response to her leave of absence, where he says, Vince is like, great, yeah, need some time, take a breath, all that stuff. That doesn't sound like the Vince McMahon that I've heard about all these years, who, oh yeah, you need to take time off? Yeah, time off, go for it.
He doesn't believe in time off, so why would he want that for his daughter that he wanted, we still wanted to take over the company?
With Stephanie's rumored demotion looming, the stakes sharpened.
I'm still optimistic about the creative. I guess the feeling of trust and the feeling of credibility around Paul Levesque as an executive was not encouraged after my listening to this interview. He's not credible to me when it comes to AEW. He's not credible to me talking about NXT UK. And he's not credible talking about Vince. I think he's sort of gaslighting the audience of this interview.
Two stories, one thread. A leadership built on shifting sands. What truths lay buried beneath their masks? As the chaos settled, a final riddle emerged. Who leaked Vince's secrets and why? Was Stephanie breaking free of her father's shadow? Triple H cementing his reign as the last McMahon standing? Or was it someone else who hasn't quite entered the picture yet?
For him to say that as passive-aggressively as he did, he is being disingenuous. And I'm sure part of it also is that it still burns him that they got beat and they got bounced over to Tuesdays. It was embarrassing for him. In their minds, I'm sure they thought that this is going to be easy. You know, this is going to be like cake. We're WWE. We're a global brand.
Vince McMahon, the titan who forged a wrestling empire, stepped down amid explosive hush money allegations, leaving a throne vacant and a legacy tarnished.
Well, meantime, the WWE released its second quarter earnings today and revealing some new details about the probe into former chairman and CEO Vince McMahon.
Before I discuss highlights from the quarter, I wanted to address some of our recent management changes. After more than 40 years of running WWE, my father, Vince McMahon, has retired. And it is both a privilege and an honor to be leading WWE with my partner, Nick Khan, as co-CEOs, and with Paul Triple H Levesque, also my husband, leading our talent and creative. Nick, Paul, and I first met around 2015 about a talent that Nick was representing. Our relationship grew with the three of us having the opportunity to work together during our last media rights negotiation. Nick was still an agent at the time, but it became quite clear how well the three of us worked together and what a tremendous asset Nick would be to our executive team. A few years and Triple H's 50th birthday party later,
it was the first time that I thought to myself, wow, this really feels comfortable. It felt like family to me. I thought to myself, I wonder what could be.
It's hard to imagine where we are now. We independently fell in love with WWE as kids and now have the opportunity to live our dream as professionals.
The McMahon investigation ran up a tab of $1.7 million between April and June, which McMahon is said to have paid for himself.
Is it normal for someone who is the star of an investigation to be paying back millions of dollars for something along these lines? Absolutely not, especially one along this line.
You could feel the tension. Triple H back where he wanted, right next to his friend Nick Khan.
Paul Levesque, the King of Kings, Triple H, he's the one who introduced me to WWE.
Seemed poised for triumph, but then The Rock dropped a bombshell on his Facebook.
And we're going to move on to something very interesting that came out. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
I believe this is Facebook. This looks like Facebook.
This is what I read. This one's special. Means a lot to me. Years in the making. In the mid-1980s, Nick Khan, his sister Ninchaka Khan. Ninachka Khan, sorry. And myself used to run around as kids in Honolulu, Hawaii. Every month when my grandmother would promote at the local arena her monthly pro wrestling shows. As kids, we loved the pro wrestling business, and as adults, our love and respect for the wrestling business has become boundless. I think before this Facebook post, nobody knew of the relationship between Nick Khan and Rock. I know I didn't.
Yes, but this is all a long game, I'm hearing, to take down Triple H and Shawn Michaels. Can we confirm that? But anyway, I'm joking, obviously. This is news to me. Nick and apparently Ninachka Khan grew up at least part of their childhood or youth in Hawaii. That's clearly what's being said here, right? They spent at least some time in Hawaii, which is where The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, grew up, right? There's no disputing that The Rock grew up in Hawaii. Nick and Ninachka Khan lived there for some time as well?
Had to have, because they both are born in Las Vegas, correct?
Yeah. I thought that Nick had grown up in Nevada or I've asked some people. I'm trying to find out, but we'll see.
Do you think that the WWE itself could ever be sold to a company like NBC Universal or another major broadcaster?
Sure, I do. I've known Vince for a very, very long time, and he's a businessman and they're business people. I think, and I've had a lot of long conversations with Nick Khan, and I've known Nick since I was a kid in Hawaii. As a matter of fact, for your viewers, I have a show on NBC called Young Rock, and the creator of that show, Ninachka Khan, is Nick Khan's sister. So there's some really nice connective tissue here. If there were a sale with the WWE, is to make sure that whoever acquires that brand and that property, you've got to love the wrestling business. Because if not, then you could kind of see the writing on the walls 4 or 5 years down the road, what will happen.
Have you ever considered making a strategic investment into the WWE or potentially even taking a board seat on the corporate side of things?
Nick and I have talked about that, and we always enjoy that over a bottle of Terramana. I'm not quite too sure if a board seat is in my future, but possibly other things are in my future for sure. So we'll see.
It's The Rock and his childhood friend, Nick Khan. Sounds like they have discussed, maybe someday, Dwayne Johnson having some sort of role as an investor in WWE.
He could potentially be a board member. I wouldn't rule that out. I think what excites people, or what has popped up on like news aggregation websites, is the concept of like The Rock running WWE, and that The Rock would be like either working with Triple H or taking over Triple H or being the CEO.
Don't get too comfortable, Paul Levesque.
Yeah, The Rock, your longest rival, your oldest rival, The Rock is coming for your job, and he's friends with Nick Khan, so that's why he's going to get the job over you, Triple H. But I find that very unlikely.
Revealing a childhood brotherhood with Nick Khan, a bond that would soon reshape WWE.
The best person to buy that company would be a group who love the wrestling business.
And I'll tell you, two people that really kind of kept me in check was Nick Khan and Bruce Pritchard. I don't know why they got reputations
because, man, they've been nothing but angels to me.
And you know that Vince McMahon looked at that and had to be disappointed and say, man, if this guy can't carry the load against AEW on Wednesdays, how is this guy going to run Raw and SmackDown one day? Little did he know that he would have no choice but to step aside and Triple H would take over anyway a year later.
Cody's success built outside WWE was a creative lifeline Triple H didn't create, but couldn't squander. He rehired his loyalists, like William Regal and the Road Dogg Billy James. Ratings climbed as fans celebrated Vince's creative exit, but cracks appeared. Rumors of Vince's return swirled. He regretted retiring, believing he could have weathered the scandal. He met Endeavor again with Stephanie and Nick Khan. His silence noted by Mark Shapiro.
Now, fast forward, we go out to dinner at the Mark Hotel restaurant. We make the pitch again in a more casual social setting. Planned what we're going to talk about, but we're shuffling papers or anything. Stephanie asked some great questions. Nick asked some great questions. Vince says nothing. We leave the meeting.
I assume it was different for you with Vince, but how was that relationship day one on? Was it great?
What I found with Vince was I could say anything to him directly in person as long as it was in a respectful way, and he'd always hear it, and oftentimes he'd agree with it.
In the Wall Street Journal story that was published today, it is noted that McMahon has told people that he, quote, intends to make a comeback to WWE. McMahon feels that he received, quote, bad advice from people close to him and thinks the allegations would have blown over if he didn't step down. Well, these two new allegations suggest that wouldn't happen, but that's what he thinks.
When Vince emailed the board to return, Stephanie, Triple H, and Nick vetoed him, citing hidden risks.
You know, anybody who tries to tell him he shouldn't do something, it only makes him want to do it more. I mean, really, that's just the truth of it.
It's like, I can certainly see a lot of people focusing more heavily on, you know, this power grab by Vince McMahon versus the uncovering of yet another allegation.
Wall Street Journal published an article. McMahon's attorney received an email from a lawyer from a former spa manager who says that McMahon assaulted her. The spa manager told her husband about the incident. Her husband drove to a WWE event with a baseball bat, tried to confront Mr. McMahon, but was turned away.
See, it seems like there is always this kind of balancing act of what gets the attention versus what is kind of at the heart of this report.
And he is going to go as hard as he possibly can for as long as he possibly can.
What's the bigger story, that Vince assaulted allegedly another person that we know of, or that he just wants to get back in power? I mean, the two things seem kind of intertwined to me. Is the
furious Vince staged a power grab, ousting board members, including the investigations leader, and reinstating allies George Barrios and Michelle Wilson.
Mr. Warren Hayes asks us, is it me, or does this whole story feel like a failed executive level behind the scenes power play? So
if he would love to be the notion that everyone's against him and the odds are against him, and even his own family, and he's got to go against all of it. You know, people think that he's done things that are wrong and immoral, and he probably doesn't think that he did something that's very wrong and immoral and problematic to their business, and he probably wants to make a comeback.
He announced WWE sale, spiking the stock. You'd think his loyalists would stand firm, but Stephanie resigned entirely after just days before saying they would stay together no matter what. This fueled whispers of betrayal. Was Stephanie's exit a final backstab or part of a larger conspiracy?
Now, a couple weeks later, maybe it's a month later, I got my dates wrong here somewhere. Rain's been hired, the merchant bank, to put it up for sale, which brings me to seminal moment number 2. We go to Rain, and we basically tell the Endeavor story about the Endeavor flywheel, what we did for UFC. Remember, we bought this, call it $4+ billion, but it was making 160, 170 million, and now you're talking about a division doing $600-700 million. 3x in the space of, how many years here?
You wrote the playbook, basically.
You got it. Now, again, you're back here. We're with Rain. We're going through the story, media rights, what we can do in analytics, social content, sponsorship and global partnerships.
Was there a moment, something you or Ari said, that Vince said,
It's just really, it was mostly about how WME comes into play with talent, IP, music artists, how we use our dynamic ticket pricing company, which is called QQ, that we acquired, to get a higher number on the ticket price, the yield, how we package that with experiences. There was no bigger guy in my face than Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
As I was trying to build this. Like, he was at every corner stopping me, obstacle, roadblock. But I've been to WrestleMania and he's been to my fights. And you know what? If you guys tell me this is going to be all that when we put them together, count me in. I trust you guys.
That day was also about letting the world know that WWE is still a family business. It's just not the McMahon family business anymore.
Big moment for us. I think Nick and I, as partners, my grandmother was running a small wrestling promotion in Hawaii back in the early 80s. And we were running around as kids back there. So we go way back. And that's what's next for me. So the idea of building with Nick, with Ari, with Mark Shapiro over at TKO, that's exciting to me because it all connects back to something that's in my blood, this world of wrestling.
Was this loyalty or a calculated alliance? A power grab waiting to unfold? Who is the true mastermind, and what dark ambition drove them to rewrite WWE's future?
Is he the savior of WWE that everyone makes him out to be?
Are indeed part of history, because this is the first international premium live event
But we have a common friend in Ari Emanuel. And I was talking to Ari
in the Triple H era.
at the end of 2023.
Get a whole full weekend of Triple H. If you guys are loud enough, he may come out here for one more.
Yeah. And we were just talking. We're talking about our stuff. He's been a longtime business partner of mine. He's been my lead agent as well for years and years, decades.
Can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Time will tell.
Okay. He might not hear you.
For the folks who don't have that sort of disposable income, for our get-in seats, our upper deck, we kept those at $25. And even if you think about it, well, okay, could we increase it to 30 to 35? Sure, but what does that actually do revenue-wise? Those are small ones and twos as we talk about it. So we like it at 25 for the upper deck. We like our price point for ringside for folks like you. And again, both nights sold out.
Hey guys, hope you liked this video as it almost crushed me. This took me over 2 months to put together, over a year of research and trying to find every single podcasting video possible. And still, I got to go to a part 2. So, and part 2 is going to be a game changer. Let me know if you have any questions, anything you want me to cover in part 2. Let me know down in the comments. Also, let me know who you think that female is at the first 30 seconds in the video. So please like this video, subscribe to the channel. I had this insane deep dive between CM Punk leaving AEW and how he really ended up in WWE that no one seems to be talking about. Also check out my Cody Rhodes deep dive on leaving the WWE, covering a lot of things, again, that I don't think a lot of people may know about. So I'm going to put that playlist over there. Please watch something else. Help me out here. This is put everything I can into this video. Hope you learned something. See you on the next one.
I also saw you and Tony Khan went out to dinner recently, and Tony said he got to break the news to you that the WWE tried to run against the UFC International Fight Week.
Where one lucky male and female superstar will win the chance to main event WrestleMania.
And they had to move from Allegiant Stadium to MGM.
Yeah, I saw that. That happened that night that we were at dinner.
They went the night that they moved?
Yeah.
You went to dinner?
Today, Dave Meltzer wrote a story about me going to Jacksonville. The people that were and wondering why Dana White didn't win Promoter of the Year last year. Looked it up and it was you. I was like, well, listen, if somebody's going to win it, let it be Tony.
Yeah, probably not a great idea trying to run the Stadium International Fight Week.
And their ticket prices are a lot cheaper, and I don't know, but